Hello everyone, Satorn here giving you another quick Vicky 3 tutorial. This time is going to be about standard of living, and we're going to talk about how it all works. Let's start with why standard of living is important. You can hover over and see that they group it by strata. We have the lower, middle, and upper, and really this is just a grouping of different professions. But for each one, there's a minimum expected level of standard of living. If for some reason we go below this, the population is not going to tolerate it and is going to generate more radicals. On the other side, if we increase a pop standard of living, we can see here that they will actually have a chance of becoming a loyalist. So we want to keep our standard of living high so we have less radicals. So let's hover over standard of living and see what it says. It says it measures the pop's living conditions with their material wealth as the baseline. So where do we find out a pop's wealth? To find the wealth of your pops, you can go to your population screen and your detailed list tab, and this will list out everybody in your nation. And it actually goes down to a given state. So for example, we could go here to the Scottish peasants in Leinster. We can see their wealth is 11, and it could be different. So let's go to another area. We can see the wealth of these peasants are actually 12. To calculate your wealth level, you can hover over underneath one of the pops, and let's check it out. We can see the wealth level 11. Here, there's a weekly income of 3.95 pounds, but there's a weekly expense of 4.76. So overall, their net income is 0.8 a week. And it looks like, see, their next wealth level minus 38%. So probably their wealth level is going to drop. So how can we increase our wealth level? Well, the first thing is maybe have the pop have more money. So for example, this is a peasant, so they're on a subsistence farm. So what we want to do is get them a job. They get a better job even as a farmer somewhere, they're going to make more money, and then their wealth level will go up if their needs stay the same. The other way to make a better net income is to also reduce the cost of the needs of the pop. So if we hover over here, we can see there's different group pop needs. So basic food, intoxicants, simple clothing, crude items, services, standard clothing, heating, and household items. If we hover over those, you can actually see what makes those groups. Another thing to keep in mind, depending on your wealth levels, let's look at maybe a clergyman here of a wealth of 30, much higher than our peasants. We'll hover over the needs. You can see the pop needs groups actually change. Now there's luxury items, services, art, heating, communication. There's a bunch of new things that show up over here. Let's tie wealth level back to standard of living. If we hover over here, we can see again that we see average current for Great Britain is middling and a number 15.2. Well, the 15.2 is actually the average wealth level. Found a great chart on the Vicky 3 wiki. I'll put it down in the comments below. You can see here this different standard of living, so the different groups and the wealth levels. So starving's 1 through 4, struggling's 5 through 9, and you can see that goes all the way up till you hit level 30, and then it starts to go in groups of 10 from affluent, 30 to 39, wealthy, lavish, and opulent. You can see on the left-hand column that there's also the needs that are related to these different groups. So you see the basic food, luxury, and all the way down. Some of the key things I want to note here, you can tell that the basic food is pretty much the same all the way up to level 30, and then it starts to switch over to just meat, fruit, groceries, and sugar. So that's one thing to keep in mind. As far as clothing goes, it's pretty standard. Just simple clothing gets you through most of the game. Fabric in the beginning is just enough. Crude items and household items, this one was pretty surprising to me and something that kind of clicked when I looked at this. So in the beginning of the game, I noticed a lot of times if I'm in a nation that is a little underdeveloped, I'll definitely use a lot of wood, and that's really for the crude items here. And then you could tell then it eventually goes into furniture, glass, and paper. So a lot of times I'll see my paper dip or my glass dip or my furniture dip, I'm not quite sure, and it comes down to these household items. So if all of a sudden you only have one of these items, let's for say glass, they're going to heavily consume glass until you get paper or furniture available. So you got to keep that in mind. Luxury items, there's nothing really there to talk about. Heating, you can see the difference between wood and fabric. It goes then to coal, oil, and then eventually electricity. And electricity is weighted quite heavily. So people definitely like that and the convenience that's there. Intoxicants are pretty simple and straightforward. The same thing with services. But I think the key ones to really look at is how your food switches. Your household items is another one. And your heating as it progresses, and your technology, you're going to see electricity is definitely going to be what people want. How does the pop determine what product to buy within a given group? Well, you can see there's a default one here. So for example, grain, but once other things are made available, like I explained before, so if fish and meat and fruit are available and they're cheap enough, then the pop will start to go towards that. Also, you can tell that meat and fruit have a 1.5 units, so they're actually a little bit better satisfying the need of basic food groups. The culture of a pop can impact what goods they will purchase to satisfy their needs. For example, the English culture has an obsession with tea, so that's going to be more heavily weighted, but they have no taboos, so there's nothing that will be impacted there. To take a quick look at the standard of living by strata, you can actually hover over it and you can see here what's impacting it. So for our lower strata, these pops pay an average of 14.3% of their income in taxes. So that's quite a bit. And that's going to reduce the amount of money that they could use for their pop needs. And we can see the prices of what they're purchasing for the pop needs is 34% on average over what is needed. And you can actually hover over this and it has a great breakdown of what the pop needs are for this strata. And you can see here grain is a little bit overpriced and is 24% of their overall expenditures, and clothes is even worse. That's at a 75% increase and it's 15%. So you can see here what market prices and products you want to drop. That's the hardest part of the game, right? Is being able to do that balance. But this will help you increase their wealth as well as their standard of living. In summary, to increase your pop standard of living, you want to increase their income. So you can do that either through jobs and by building more buildings. You can also do that underneath your budget, and you can lower your taxes or potentially increase wages. The second thing you need to do is make sure that the prices of the products or goods that your pops need are lower. So for example, here grain, we'd want to increase and create more grain in our market. So we would lower the price. And third, as your standard of living of your population increases, you need to make sure that your economy is also matching these new needs. I hope you found this video on standard of living useful. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments below. Hit that like, subscribe, notification button. They're free. And as always,
for the swarm.